It's time for all your binge-worthy pop culture news. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back and happy Thursday. Okay, guys, we're back with Ricky Cornish from Out Magazine to talk about the Real Housewives of Orange County. And I did not miss a beat here. Thank you so much, Lee, for the super sticker. And we have a lot to discuss. Now, I know everyone is still talking about the Shannon Beador arrest, the DUI and hit and run of it all. And I am curious because I haven't talked to Ricky since this happened. I want to pick his brain on this a little bit, especially after just watching all of the drinking that's involved throughout the show. Last night's show we called it Freak Show, but I'm calling it more of a shit show. Yeah, we're going to get into it. Smash the like button, show some love, and let's welcome Ricky. Hello.
What's up, my friend? It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you.
Yes, and I apologize that you have the glasses situation going on. I am sending you all the good vibes to your eye right now.
Hey, thanks. No, Jason said that there's no more apologizing. So I'm not apologizing for it. I'm just owning it.
Oh, yeah, you have to own it. I mean, these are literally things that are out of our control. I've been there, done that. I had a whole eye situation last summer. So yeah, there's nothing to apologize for. It just happens. So
it just happens. You know, we got to keep it moving. One person even asked me, they're like, well, why don't you just take some time off YouTube? And I'm like, excuse me. Absolutely not.
You're like, no. I got a job to do. I was the same way because my eyes got really dry at one point. So yeah, one of the things people were like, you got to stop looking at the screen. I'm like, I have a remote job. I'm like, I don't know what to do about that. We gotta get with the times.
This is what it is. So Ricky, before we get into the finale of it all, what were your thoughts when you saw the arrest? Like when you heard about it?
Yeah, that was wild, right? Like I remember seeing that online and I was just so sad, to be quite honest with you. Like nobody ever wants to see anybody go through something like that. But as I was reading more up on it, I just couldn't believe more and more of the details. Like the fact that Archie was in the car, then she was pretending to walk Archie when the cops showed up. Like that part kind of blew my mind. Like I can only imagine what that conversation must have looked like this cop trying to have a conversation with Shannon and she's like trying to pretend, because we've seen Shannon drunk and, you know, she slurs and her eyes are really heavy like anybody when they're super drunk. So I can only imagine what that conversation was like.
And you have a cut on your face. You have a broken arm. So how are you navigating this, trying to tell the police like, oh, you know, well, I'm just casually walking this is Archie, this is the police, say hi. Like, but you're like holding your arm, you have a cut on your face and they see the clear like oil spill, like the trail to your car. And they're like, lady, don't make this more difficult. Like you just clipped the house. We get it. We're arresting you.
Oh, so that was always really crazy. I will say, even though she did have some injuries, I'm glad overall, like nobody really got hurt. Like she didn't hit anybody. Thank goodness. I'm glad Archie was okay. It definitely could have been a lot worse. But even when I saw the TMZ footage that came out shortly after of her taking like that sharp turn, which resulted in the hit, I was just like, oh my God. And another thing I was wondering, like, you know, we really don't understand her current situation with John. And from what we understand, it looks like she was going home to see John. What was John's reaction, you know, when he saw her in the state or when he got that phone call that she was in the jail cell? Like what, you know, there's a lot of questions there. So I'm curious to see how they're going to address it, because I would like to think they're not going to want to talk about it for the first time at BravoCon. I'm sure Andy's probably going to want to do like an interview with her at some point or something. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions that we have regarding this situation.
See, I feel like they're going to save it for BravoCon because I think that she's going to have to go through the intensive therapy between now and BravoCon, which is going to be 5 days a week where she's going to be outpatient. But then also from there, you know, like with the John Jansen of it all, I thought it was interesting that one of her good friends, Jeff Lewis, said John Jansen is semi-retired. He lives this life. He goes to karaoke. He does things and stays up till 2 a.m. And Shannon tries to keep up with that life. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. When we met Shannon, the way she bonded with Vicky and Tamara was over vodka and tequila. Like that was pre-John Jansen. So I don't know if we can pass the blame torch over here to John Jansen.
No, and not only have we seen it this season, but we've seen it every season that not only I think does Shannon drink quite a bit, but she really drinks when she's going through some stuff. And this whole season, these ladies have been talking about the fact that she gets drunk and she'll call them, when the cameras aren't rolling, and she'll spill all these personal details about her relationship and her life. So, I mean, I hate to say, I would never like to say it's not surprising that she got herself in a situation. Like, I would never want to say that about somebody, but she does drink a lot. And I do think we know she's been going through something like severe for quite some time. And I am really hoping, and it seems like she is, but I'm really hoping she's just going to take this time to realize this is her rock bottom and she needs to get some real help and take some time back and, just figure things out because she deserves that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I was honestly waiting to see what Gina K was going to say about it. And then she did say, I had an aha, like, oh shit moment when I first found out. And at first, naturally, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought it was karma. And then I kind of came back and I'm like, I feel bad for her. And I was like, I'm glad that she shared her real feelings. And then she was like, okay, I'm going to reel it back in and be like, I did feel bad for her in this moment.
Of course, because no matter what personal relationship you might have, you would never want anybody to get themselves in a situation like that. So the best thing we can do is just send Shannon all our love and support at this time. And I just hope she really gets the help that she needs. She really does, I think, needs some real help after going through something like that. So I hope she gets the help she needs.
I agree with that. Ricky, what would you rate last night's finale, 1 to 10, 10 being the highest?
I would probably give it like an 8.
Yeah. I feel like an 8's pretty good. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good finale.
I do too. I was entertained. Thank goodness for Tamara and Heather. They kept that going.
Well, what did you think about Heather? Oh, Heather's rental looks terrible.
Oh, yeah, the rental. I thought, yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I was kind of curious how they were going to, figure that out because I know obviously Terry needs to be an OC for his work. And I know at the end of the day, they still live in the OC. I'm dying to know how they're going to figure that out because I know they obviously have this property in Los Angeles now, and that's where Heather really wants to be. But, especially if she's going to stay on the show and the show's still based in the OC and Terry's still going to work in the OC, I was wondering if they're going to just buy a new house down there. What are they doing? So I thought it was interesting that they decided to stay in a rental for the time being.
Or they could just Meredith Marks it and just rent the house while they're in town filming.
I mean, they really could. There's no reason why they shouldn't have to, if they just want to do that. Because the kids are are all the kids out of the house now, or are they still,
almost. I think that they have maybe 3 more years, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So kids got to go to school, stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they find a place for them to just stay in the meantime,
I mean, $55 million, I'm sure you can rent something pretty decent with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, they'll find something, no problem.
I agree. Okay, now I wanted to talk about the Shannon chiropractic scene with Emily because Shannon has hurt herself yet again in Mexico. And she's sitting down with Emily and they start talking about Heather Dubrow. And after kind of getting all the kinks worked out, Emily and Shannon were discussing the issues. And she talks about how Gina is still upset over the whole Heather situation. And things are not okay between Gina and Heather or Emily and Heather. And Shannon, even though she's looking around in this moment, I feel like her and Tamara really love the fact that this is a Heather Dubrow takedown.
I completely agree. I think we've kind of hit it on the head. I really do think these women are all going against Heather. And it's just wild to me. Even last night watching the finale, as these women still continue to harp on these reasons to be upset with her, they all were so ridiculous. They really were just all so ridiculous. And especially Tamara, I feel like Tamara and Heather really didn't have any real issues all season until the very end when they went on that trip to Mexico. And then Tamara was trying to pull up this thing that Heather had said and make it a bigger thing than it really was. And then it just resulted in them ending the season on bad terms. For what? You know what I mean? Especially Tamara, girl, you guys really are nice to each other. You really haven't had that many issues in the past. Plus, you see that Heather really has been dogpiled all season. Why add something else to the fray that's really not that big of a deal? This loser comment, come on. It's just so ridiculous. So I didn't like watching it, honestly.
I mean, the edited compilation of the pileup when she's explaining it to Dr. Terry Dubrow and then the dog humping the thing, I'm like, okay, guys, the editing is ridiculous. But from here, we have a finale party, which of course we're always going to get a finale party. So we have to get ready for it. And it's Gina's circus themed freak show. I feel like production, somebody had to, I'm not saying Gina could not pay for this, but this was easily $150,000 party.
Yeah, I loved the idea of this party, and I love that it's airing now, right as Halloween is about to come up in real time. I thought it was really fun. I loved the whole theme of this, and yeah, it definitely looked like they rented out a really nice space. You know, everybody got dressed up. There were things to do. So yeah, I love the whole theme of this. I love a good Halloween party, not just on Real Housewives, but in general. Halloween is like my holiday, so sign me up.
Okay. Well, when they're shopping, it's Tamra, Jen, and Gina. And one thing that I just don't understand at this point is like Jennifer Padronti. Every time we see you with Tamra, she rips you apart. And then you're like right back around her again. Why? Like even when Heather Dubrow finally came out, and you could tell she's fed up in this episode. She's like, you know, Jennifer's like up her ass for what I don't know. Like I wouldn't want a friend like that. Tamra treats her like shit. And I'm like, no, it's kind of true. Like Tamra definitely does treat her and her fellow housewife Ryan like garbage.
Heather, I think, definitely spoke for all of us in that scene when she finally was like, I don't get why you're so close with Tamra. She treats you horribly. I think we all like agreed in that moment. Like, yes, I think the only benefit of the doubt that I'll give Jen is the fact that this was only her first season and Tamra was the one who brought her onto the show. You know, they are friends. So I think Jennifer, you know, understandably so, wasn't that comfortable with the other women yet and didn't want to completely like leave Tamra behind, even though she really had every right to. I think she was too nervous to, like, she didn't know these women that well. And then like by leaving her only friend behind, you know, where does she really fit in the group? Like she hasn't really bonded with Heather that much. She doesn't really know these other women. So I kind of get where Jen's coming from, but I think it's very obvious that it took Jen to reflect when the season was wrapped. And by watching the episodes back, I think she's truly realizing like how horrible Tamara was to her all season. Because I think we saw, you know, as the season was airing, they unfollowed each other on social media. We saw the teaser for the reunion. They're clearly going at it. So I think it just took Jen a minute, like after getting used to this idea of filming Real Housewives, for her to realize, yeah, what am I doing? Like, why am I sticking by someone who's been so terrible to me?
Well, and I'm going to get into this comment really quick, and then I'm going to speak on that. Can we get rid of Tamra? She's over the top bitchy. Don't want to see the Tres Abuelas on my screen. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Hey, thanks. But I feel like for Jen, you could tell, like, especially at the reunion, you know how they make them watch all of the episodes before they go into the reunion? You could tell that she watched it back and she was like, oh my God. I was like dog piled on, kind of like Heather Dubrow, like this. No, I don't have to protect you for, like, when she said, you know, you're a cheater. And Jen looked at Tamara and she's like, you're a cheater too. I'm like, where? When? What happened?
Yeah, I don't know the tea on that, because I want to say I saw her say that somewhere else too. I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard that comment thrown out by her before. And I don't know. I think she's referring to one of Tamara's past marriages, you know,
I
obviously.
hope so.
And I think she's referring to the fact that she cheated on, I forget who her ex was, but she cheated on her ex with Eddie. I think that's what Jen's referring to. I could be wrong. But who knows? That could be great. That could have been like while that marriage was already ending, or like, who knows? But I'm glad to see that Jen's really sticking up for herself. And I think I even saw on an Instagram post somewhere, like after the reunion or something, Heather had posted something and Jen like commented saying like, if there's anyone who can relate to being dogpiled this season, it's me. So I'm glad that Jen and Heather hopefully have maybe come together, given the fact that they both received the most amount of like vitriol the entire season. And I'm glad that they're like, hey, listen, we got to team up here because these girls are coming at both of us for no reason.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. And I, you know, it was wild for me to see Gina kind of try to figure out who do I believe in the situation between Heather and Tamra over the whole losers comment, because she made a comment saying that Tamra does not lie. She just holds on to information and uses it at the worst time for whoever. That's why I don't tell anything to Tamra. But then we have a sit down because Gina wants to clear the air with her good friend over here, Heather Dubrow. And Heather comes in with audio. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad that Heather came in to defend herself, because it's unfortunate that up to this point this season, like Heather's word is just not good enough. And shame on these women. I feel like I've said this so much, but shame on these women again, like literally being so mad that Heather called them losers when they haven't even given Heather the proper chance to defend herself or to clarify the situation. Like, what kind of friend are you to this woman? Like, if someone had came to me or said something like about my best friend and said my best friend called me a loser, the very first thing I would do is go to said friend and say, hey, I heard you called me a loser. Is that true? And if so, why did you say that? I would never just run around and say, I can't believe my best friend would say this about me. I can't believe they, and then create a whole like problem. Like, what? Like, Gina and Emily should have went straight to Heather and said, wait, is this true? Like, and if so, like, why would you say that? So the fact that they already were believing that Heather said that already shows that they're not good friends at all. And I appreciate the fact that Heather took this opportunity to show I wasn't the one who said this. This is the real situation as to what was said. It's unfortunate that Heather has been against the wall having to defend herself at every turn, and now she's had to bring out proof to do so. But I'm glad she did that because I feel like that cleared her name a little bit.
I think so too. I think like watching it, I was sitting there thinking like, oh, okay, good. This is good. You needed to have this moment. You needed to be able to explain yourself, and you needed to at least like when Heather walked in, you could tell she's totally over it. She's like, you called me here. And Gina was like, I feel like, like I really like you. She's like, well, all of you ladies could have fooled me because that's not how it feels for me. But I think that she got some clarity on the situation, even though Tamra still says to date, that was an inside joke and Shannon knows what we're talking about. And I still was not the person who said it. And I'm like,
oh my gosh. It's funny. I always think it's so funny because, you and I, we're so invested in this Housewives stuff. Like, it's funny to me when I have my best friend watch it with me and she doesn't watch it nearly as much as I do. And she just turned to me like in the middle of the episode and she's like, they're all so upset over the comment losers. I'm like, oh, Carson, that's my best friend's name. I'm like, oh, Carson, this is what these women do. They take one little nugget and they make it the worst possible thing you could ever say about a person. It's such a throwaway comment. It's so dumb. And especially the fact that Heather had me cracking up. The fact that she's saying that she's referring to Noella. She's not talking about anybody on the current cast. She's talking about past cast. Like, this is funny. Like, I think that's probably hysterical that Heather just threw that comment out there calling Noella a loser. Why these women are now trying to turn it around and make it a storyline. Like, come on, people, like, laugh. Like, where is this? It's like Teresa said, ha ha, laugh, funny. Do you have a sense of humor? Like, come on now.
Speaking of them, I'm ready for our New Jersey ladies to be back.
Ooh,
but
chaos.
Okay, so now we have a cover star. She is going to be the cover star for this magazine, Woman of the Year, which I never heard of this magazine. But hey, listen, her CBD company has grown into a multi-million-dollar business. And she got emotional about it when she talks about where she is now today with this company, when she was talking to, Eddie. And I thought actually, because I saw some comments and I saw where people were like, nobody knows what this magazine is. I'm like, listen, whether you like her or not, it's still a win. So you got to give her credit where credit is due. Let's let her have the win. She is the cover of the Women of the Year issue.
Yes.
Let's leave it at that.
Listen, I mean, even if you haven't heard of the magazine, it's still cool that any magazine would reach out and offer that to her. I mean, they did a photo shoot and everything, at least according to the show. So it looks like they went all out for it. And no matter what, magazine cover or not, the fact that her company has done very, very well is a huge accomplishment. I was gagged when she said that it was a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, that's crazy. I remember back when she launched that company. So seeing that it's gone so far, and I think it's pretty amazing that her company is doing so well, given the fact that she did have to shut down Cut Fitness. So the fact that she had to let one business go, but this other one is still going very strong, says a lot. So props to her and Eddie,
I think that she probably shut down Cut Fitness because it became more of an expense and not, I bet you they didn't have to, but they were probably like, what are we doing here? Like, we're making so much money with the other business and then we're spending a lot of time here. It's a lot to manage. Let's just let this one go.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with that. I mean, that's just a typical example. Like, the business itself would have been fine if it weren't for the pandemic, but a business like that, how are you going to keep it going during the pandemic? So it was definitely the right decision for sure.
You sneak people in.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that's how they do it. All right, so now I'm not saying that's how they did it,
yeah.
Camera. I'm not saying that. So Now going over, we have Jennifer Pedranti who's sitting down with Ryan, and Ryan's like, what did Tamara have to say about me now? And I'm like, gosh, you remind me so much of Slade. It is cringy. But she said, I kind of feel like the way that Tamara is talking, that she has something like in this arsenal that she's going to hit me with, and it's going to be a surprise. So is there anything like, do you want to tell me anything? And he's like, I did hook up with that woman, but yes, I only want to be with you. Like there's nothing else. I only love you. And I'm watching like, Jennifer, are we believing this guy? I mean, he told you he's cheated in every single relationship. I don't know if I believe him.
I know. This is just, I don't like putting any negative energy toward it because I don't want it to be true. I don't want this to happen to her because I really do like Jen. And it's very obvious that she really likes him. And so I really want to make sure that this relationship lasts. And I think the only reason I am nervous about it, because like you said, like he doesn't have the best past, but also we've just seen it so many times on this show, when there's cracks in the foundation and then later on, the inevitable happens and then we see it play out on the show and it's really hard to watch and blah, blah, blah. So I really just hope she's not following that same trope that we've seen so many other housewives follow in the past, because it's very obvious that she likes this guy. She's brought him into the family. Like he's around her kids, so if anything, it's like, Ryan, please just don't cheat. Like just stay true to her. Like you say you want to be with her, just stay, we all want to believe you and we all want to see your relationship go all the way. So that's all we can hope for at this point. Like at the very end of the episode, when they do the cards, the title cards with each housewife, and she was with him. I was just like, I just really hope we don't see her not with him at some point. I just want to see them work it out,
I know. And she was honest about her business too. She was like, right now I don't have $5,000 to like spend or whatever. And the producers asked her, is your yoga studio doing good? And she's like, well, good enough to pay for the rent and pay for the employees, but we're not drawing a profit as owners. But that's a transparent conversation that I think it's good for people to hear, because people automatically look at someone who owns a restaurant or a yoga studio or a gym and they're like, oh, you're doing amazing. And it's like, well, there's a lot more to that.
Oh, God, yeah. I love it when the housewives are transparent because, I do know that a lot of people obviously watch this show because they want to escape and they want to see these women who live these affluent lives. And, it's a completely different type of lifestyle that most people are used to. And I completely get that. But there's nothing that I love more than watching a reality show and being able to relate to somebody. I think it's just such a powerful thing because I feel like a lot of people watch these shows because they don't feel very comfortable in their own circumstances. And when you can watch someone on a TV show and they say something that you relate to or you resonate with, I think it's so powerful because I think for some people, it might be the first time they ever feel like they could relate to somebody else. I know for me personally, like watching shows like Drag Race and LGBTQ plus shows, that was the first time I feel like I could ever relate to somebody because I didn't relate to anybody really growing up. So these moments that we're seeing where Jen said that, I love when Monica was transparent on Salt Lake City about her buying the bag because she just wanted to fit in. How many of us can relate to that? Like we've all been in situations where we don't feel like we really fit in and we want to fit in. So I love it when the women are more honest about this stuff. I feel like it kind of helps us connect a little bit.
The only time I ever watched a reality show where I felt like I could relate was the Kardashians. But here we are. No, I'm just
for you, Adam.
I'm just kidding. I wish. I think we all wish. Okay. So as we move forward, then we have John Jansen and Shannon Bedore going out on a date. And when they went out on this date, they have this conversation about how she is about to be an empty nester and the kids are all going to college. She's focusing on her new enema business. She's focusing on all of her other businesses. She is trying to make money to put them in college, right? Or through college. They all are going to very expensive colleges. Not to mention, though, David Bedore has a lot of money, so I don't think we should forget that.
Right.
Like, I would have put that in the divorce. His ass is paying for the college. However, there was a prenup involved, I believe, so that wasn't going to happen. Anyways, so while they're talking, it kind of made me feel bad for Shannon because John's like, now this is our time where we get to be together and I love you. And I'm happy that, even though they're going to be off, it's not like we can't go fly and see them, but now we get Shannon and John time. I'm like, you're literally about to break up with her a week after this. What?
I know. Well, do you think he like actually was like, do you think he already was planning on breaking up with her in that moment? Because I personally feel like these two I don't know about you. Just watching the finale, it was very obvious that this. I mean, I hate saying stuff like this because I feel like it's so negative, but like it felt like the spark really was not there, that finale episode. Like when they were at that dinner, I did not feel like there was a big spark, and especially the way they were interacting at the party later on, like arguing about his hat and like we got to take this photo. Like it just doesn't feel like the spark was there. So I don't know. I would like to think that he's not selling her this, like, oh, we're gonna have a great life now that the kids are gone, and then dumps her right after the cameras are done. Like, I really hope he didn't do that. And I don't know. Part of me feels like they're like very on and off. I think it's very interesting the fact that they're still, I don't know,
running around together.
They like hang out together like all the time still. Like, I don't know. I get the vibe that they might not be in a relationship, but they definitely still like spend a considerable amount of time together. So I think there's a lot of gray area when it comes to them.
You're saying friends with bennies.
I think they might be fucking.
Jesus. Wow. My gosh. Okay.
It's right there. I had to take it.
Okay. Well, you know, also, I think that John Jansen led with the foot that he didn't want to break up with her on camera to embarrass her. But I think instead he didn't want to break up with her on camera or while they were filming the season because he wanted to protect himself. I'm sure Shannon already told him how many, awful things that the ladies were alluding to about him. And he was like, well, in order for me to not look like the complete villain in the story, if I do it at the end of the season, sure, they'll say some things at the reunion, but then going into the next season, maybe we'll be moved past this, Definitely. I think this was for him. I don't think it was for her.
For sure. Like, John has been around long enough. He knows how this show works. And he knows that if he were to dump her on camera, like, he knows that would send her into a spiral. And then, yes, then they would be talking about him nonstop. And you're 100% right. He definitely knew that they were already talking about him throughout the season. I think, if anything, the women were kind of planting the perfect opportunity for him to break up with her on camera because they were talking about the fact that the relationship seemed off all season. It kind of set them up for their breakup eventually at the end of the season. So I think it's nice that John didn't do that to her because that would have been, that would have been hard for Shannon to have to deal with on camera. I always feel so bad for these women when they're dumped, as the cameras are rolling. It's a pretty messed up thing to do. So I'm glad John just waited for the cameras to stop rolling.
At least Noella's husband just waited a week before they started rolling, right? Didn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
Wasn't it like I'm taking off to, I don't know if it was Venezuela or Puerto Rico, or he took off somewhere and he's like, okay, bye. Yeah, I don't want to be on TV.
As her dad died. I mean, it was just like, sometimes you wonder like how these women, especially it's hard being on this show, but some of these women, when you see what they really were going through that one and only season they were on, or their first season they were on, it's like, how did you even get through it, girl? Because that is hard. That's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you look at them and you're like, I kind of feel bad for you because now you made yourself look like an ass and you got fired after one season.
God, talk about being dealt a bad hand.
I agree. Dear Dana really wish Shannon would get therapy. Well, she is getting therapy now, intensive therapy, but I think it's just for AA. But also this is, clearly she has to get therapy before she goes back to court because it's going to look good for her when she goes back to court. In order for her not to go to jail, then all they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, pay these fines. You went to intensive therapy. We hope you continue your treatment. You're going to do some community service and you're losing your license for a year.
Yes. Plus, also, wasn't it so interesting that they weren't releasing her mugshot? I was like, dang, she's got a good lawyer. Like,
apparently that was a new law that was passed in California. Where,
oh, really? I thought she had like some connection and she was able to pull that off.
No, I think it's something to do with like being a nonviolent offender.
Oh.
So if you're a nonviolent offender in the state of California, now that they don't have to share mugshots.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you for clarifying that. Because my mind kept thinking, remember when Gina got the DUI and Shannon got her connected with her lawyer and they made the whole thing like they were on their way to arrest you, but we saved you. Like, I thought it was like a similar situation that Shannon was going through, given the fact that she had these high power attorneys in her back corner. So I thought she was able to escape all that nonsense thanks to them. So, okay, that's good to know. I didn't realize it was just a law thing.
To be fair, that's what I thought too.
Right.
And then everybody in the comments were like, no, Adam, this is what it is. And I was like, oh, thank you guys. So now I'm paying it forward and passing you that information.
Thank goodness we have you, Adam, clarifying the nonsense.
No, thank goodness we have them.
Yeah.
But all right, so now let's get to the freak show of it all, because I thought the freak show looked like a fun time, but we knew that there was going to be obvious drama here with everyone. And one of my favorite moments, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because I thought this was so funny. I have to talk about her because she is an absolute wreck on this show. Listen, I got a news flash for Heather Dubrow. My friends are fucking wealthy. They can trump every single fucking house you've ever lived in. My friends live in Beverly Hills. Okay, what are you saying, girl? She just sold her house for $55 million.
I mean, seriously.
Like, okay.
Oh, Taylor. Okay. Taylor. I will say, like, seeing her drunk is kind of funny, like, because she is super messy. But here's the thing. It's very obvious that when she drinks, she gets mad, because we've seen that not only now on the show, in this episode, but I think we've all seen that viral video now of her yelling at the paparazzi.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, it's funny. That is funny, especially at the end when she's like, this reunion is about to be hot.
She's like the dirtiest reunion. And she gave herself an orange.
Yeah,
she gave herself an orange.
So funny. But yeah, she definitely gets pretty angry when she drinks. And I think she's got to figure that out. But yeah, this finale episode, she was just doing the most for sure.
And if you're going to go up to somebody like Heather Dubrow, you better come like with your I's dotted, your T's crossed, with your notes, and be sober as hell, because she's going to be, even though it's like, I think that she low key has like an IV attached to her at all times, because she can drink the shams and you don't see her get wasted. You just see you see put together Heather Dubrow, and it's kind of wild. But when she walks up and she's like, it was about the chicken noodle soup, Heather, and you went back to your room, and my stepdaughter lives there, and she's like, I didn't know. And she's like, when you laid down, you didn't think to call us. It's like, oh my God. And also, you could have just went. You could have went and sent Heather a message and been like, hey, and when Heather said, why didn't you knock on my door? Like, if it was that big of a deal, knock on my door. And Taylor's like, I don't go chasing my fucking friends, Heather. And Heather was like, I'm done with you. We're done.
Oh, honey, when I tell you Heather Dubrow, yet again, handled this situation so perfectly. I mean, this was just, the way Taylor was like looking a mess. And yeah, exactly. I mean, Heather just said it beautifully. When they showed the literal shot, it's on camera, of Heather asleep with the light. You really think Heather Dubrow, of all people, is trying to fall asleep with the lights on and in her clothes? Like, no, like Heather Dubrow would definitely want to like get properly ready for bed. So it's obvious she passed out after a crazy long day in Mexico. And she said it perfectly. Why didn't you just come check on me if you were so concerned about why I didn't come back? Like, plus, it would just make sense that Heather probably would fall asleep or something would just happen. Like, she wouldn't just, I would think, just leave them behind. So she handled it beautifully. But my favorite part was when she just kind of did the whole like, okay, I'm sorry, and then like walked away. That was hysterical. I'm sorry.
I think Heather Dubrow knew that she was walking into a pileup in there, but like, Taylor, you automatically lost the conversation because you got way too much liquid courage before even going into it. So you're just out. You're out of the conversation. Did she even make it in this photo? No. Oh, she did. She did.
Oh, she did. There she is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's in the back. But you lost the conversation. So we're Xing you out. Then Jennifer Pedranti wanted to go up and have a conversation with Heather Dubrow. And I thought that Jennifer handled it really well. And she's like, look, I just, I feel like you didn't really give me the time of day. And Tamara on the side was seething, seeing Heather talk to every single person. She's like, Kerr, I'm so fucking angry. She's over here. She's rallying the troops. And I'm like, Tamara, it kind of comes off like you're the one rallying the troops. And you're just getting upset that Heather is now, it's like, you don't want Heather, the way it comes off, you don't want Heather to have a voice in this moment, because if she has a voice, then she can defend herself against all of the things that you're saying about her. And you don't want that. You want this to be a clear Heather Dubrow takedown. Even when Heather was like, I feel like it's like that movie, The Heathers or whatever. And it's like, you have like the mean girls, like the main cheerleaders. And she said it in her confessional. She's like, if you want to be the top dog, you can have it. That's okay. Like, Heather seems so unbothered. And even if she is bothered, the way that she is portraying herself on the show as unbothered by certain things, you win.
100%. Because I will say, obviously last season, they definitely like put Heather in the top spot, right? Because they were like, Heather's back, and she's in this house, and what, blah blah blah. Like they definitely set Heather up to be the top dog last year, and I think she would admit to that. This season, I definitely don't feel like she is like doing anything to like try and be this top dog. I don't think she's doing anything to. They do that to her. Like they are so like bothered by every little thing that she does, and she doesn't even do anything. So they are already pushing her into that top spot. She's not even asking to do it. It's not her fault. She sold a $55 million house. It's not her fault that she now has a TV network and she's throwing this insanely gorgeous party to celebrate it. It's not her fault. Her kids are going to these nice schools. Like she's literally just living her life, and you all are so bothered. So you're just naturally putting her there in this top spot. Then you hold her accountable for things that she's not even guilty of doing. So then you just create this unnecessary problem. So I thought it was ironic that Tamara was trying to say all these crazy things about Heather in the finale, because I personally thought everything Tamara was accusing Heather of doing were the exact same things that Tamara was doing to everybody else. Like it was very like contradictory. It's like you're accusing Heather of like saying these things and doing these things, but you're doing all those things. Like it didn't make any sense. And then when Tamara actually went up and confronted her, I thought Heather just perfectly, again, shut that down and said, I have no interest in having this conversation with you. It obviously got Tamara bothered because Tamara's trying to have a moment. Heather shut it down beautifully and walked away. Like, no notes. No notes. No,
especially when, like Dr. Terry Dubrow is sitting there and it's so awkward. And he's like, okay, I'm going to walk away. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me, Heather? And she's like, I'm not doing this, Tamara. Like you want a moment. And she's like, no, you are going to do this. And she's like, you're a bitch. And she's like, okay, yeah. I'm a bitch. Like, and she was like, I'm not doing this with you. And Tamara's like, yes, we are. And I'm like, oh, not the fingers. The fingers, that's when, if this was a different franchise, like you might get beat up over that. You got to be careful with the fingers.
You might get suspended like other girlies right now.
Yeah, well, they got unsuspended, but you might get suspended and then get unsuspended. So you don't want to get suspended and then unsuspended.
Girl, trying to get HR involved when you do that.
Everybody wants to know what your shirt says.
Oh, it's the cast of Glass Onion, Knives Out. Daniel and Edward and Janelle and Catherine and Leslie and Kate and Dave, Jessica and Madeline, and never stops. It's the whole cast of Glass Onion, Knives Out, the Netflix movie. Yeah.
There you go, guys. There you go.
I know I'm kind of teasing you with just the Daniel but yeah. Then you're like, it's like credits roll as I bring up the shirt.
Yeah, just here we go.
It never ends.
So Emily Simpson showed up as Popcorn and her husband as Butter, and Emily also walked up to Heather, and she's like, after slamming her, she was like, I really do like you, Heather. And she's like, girl, none of you like me. All of you need to stop saying that. Like, you don't like me. She didn't say it like that, but she's like, okay. Heather really went in there like, I'm going to be calm. You guys are all going to be bullshit. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, come on now. Think about poor Heather in this instance. Like she has Emily talking to her crazy, Gina talking to her crazy, Jen saying that, you didn't get to know me. Then Taylor's yelling at her drunk about chicken noodle soup. Then Tamara's getting in her face. My God. The only person that didn't have a problem with Heather at this party, I feel like, was Shannon, because they had gone to lunch the day before. This is just ridiculous. The fact that Heather was going head to head with all these women. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but these women really should feel embarrassed. They just should, because the fact that Emily is trying to come up with this loser nonsense, Taylor is coming up with this chicken noodle this is ridiculous, and they all really believe what they're saying. I'm like, girlies, you gotta calm down.
And I feel like you can tell when people start picking, like they're like, what is Heather wearing? I'm like, Heather and Emily.
Yes,
Heather, Emily, and Gina look the best.
Yes, agreed. I actually liked a lot of these outfits across the board, but yeah, there was nothing wrong with Heather's outfit. It's funny because they try and act like, Heather's the one like looking down on them and talking crazy to them. Here they are doing the exact thing that they're accusing Heather of doing to her. It's like, how do you not see how are you not embarrassed? Like, if I looked back on this, I would be humiliated. And I really think they all owe her an apology. I know I come across as a really big Dubrow defender, but I would be saying this about any of the girls. If any of the girls were picking on just one and accusing them of doing all this nonsense that they weren't doing, I would be defending them too. Like, They all really need Heather Dubrow an apology. That's just the facts.
Well, even this too, like when they come up behind while Tamara's like, they see Tamara storm over and they're like, are you fucking kidding me? And then you see Taylor and Jen like run over to like support. This isn't fair. No. Like she's backed into a corner. She's always backed into a corner. That's how it comes off.
Yes. And I do think there's sometimes, like, I would say pretty rarely, but there are some times where I feel like, you know, a girl does alienate herself from the group. Like I think it was Brandy on like season 5 of Beverly Hills. She was going at it with everybody. Okay. So I don't think any of us would really defend Brandy that season because she really was. I mean, she was slapping Lisa Vanderpump. She was throwing wine at Eileen. I mean, she was doing a lot of stuff. So in those situations, I understand why all the women have a problem with one girl because she really is causing problems with everybody. This situation is nothing like that. Like Heather is not doing anything to anybody. And you all are really nitpicking and trying to create these problems when you just don't need to. I just feel like it's not right, especially when you see Heather like crying and getting upset. And Heather has said to Emily, especially, and Gina, I've been nothing but a friend to you. I've been really nice to you. I've been very supportive of you. And you're the ones who are turning on me. And I just don't get why. On that moment, you should just apologize and move on just for the sake of a friendship. If you even want a friendship at that point, just apologize and move on. It's not worth trying to create a fake storyline for a show.
Just apologize and move on. I agree. Well, I'm ready for the reunion. I think it's going to be the dirtiest reunion, and I think it's going to be really good.
I do too, and I love the set. I think the set is gorgeous.
That's probably the nicest set to date.
Yeah, the budget. Like when they did they flipped the switch, and you know suddenly you're on the beach and the waves, and I couldn't believe it. It was just very high production. I was like, dang, like this is a Housewives show. Like it's pretty incredible. So I'm excited to see what these women have to offer.
Yeah, we put money into this. This is screaming, hey, let's save our show.
Well, you know what? I actually was screaming, man, we really knocked it out of the park, and we're going to celebrate by throwing an epic reunion.
Oh, see? Okay. Yeah, no, I thought it was, I thought it was great. The way that I do think that this has been such a great Real Housewives of Orange County season after season 16 was terrible. Season 15 was terrible. Season 14 was terrible. Yeah. Like, finally, there's no Bronwyn, no Noella. We're like getting it right. It kind of feels like we're getting it right. I do have one more person that I think should be entered into the fray just to mix it up, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's where you and I disagree.
I know, but I
don't agree.
I just think that I feel like Heather Dubrow, like she's not going to win with these ladies, and I think that she would be so amazing on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Yeah, and I know that Heather and Kelly can never film together. I get both sides of that, but I think that Heather would be incredible on Beverly Hills. I think she'd be such good TV. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, like if we have the Tres Amigas are going to bully everybody next season if there is no Heather Dubrow, and they are the top dogs like the Mean Girls. And the only person who will actually go up against the Tres Amigas is Kelly Dodd.
I know. No, and that is true. And I will say, I even Tamara said it, I think, on her last appearance on Watch What Happens Live. Like the show needs Heather, in my opinion. I feel like one of the reasons the show was so bad for the past few years is because Heather Dubrow wasn't on. Now, granted, I will agree with everybody and say the last season wasn't good either, but I feel like that season was very transitional. You know, they brought Heather back. They tried making it work with Noella and Jen, and they weren't delivering. Like, I feel like last season overall just wasn't working. This is where I think the Real Housewives of Orange County truly shines. When you have the Tres Amigas, you have Heather in there. You know, you have some other people that are strong, like Jen, and I think Emily and Gina have their strong moments. Like, I really think this is the cast that you need to move forward with. I think the only reason why it should change is if Heather does decide to move to Beverly Hills full time. And if that's the case, the same production company produces Orange County and Beverly Hills. So yeah, if I was them, I would offer her a contract and just be like, well, if you're really trying to move to Beverly Hills, you might as well join these ladies. Imagine Heather Dubrow with like Dorit. I mean, like that would be like fun. Garcelle. I mean, I would be very interested to see how Heather would mix it up with those women.
I would too. It would be interesting. Yes. I think it would be such good TV. I think it would be great TV. And I think that this is where we would see Heather shine amongst like other ladies who are like holding up the same level of opulence. You know what I mean? Like Dorit brings the fashion. She doesn't care to spend the money. Kyle Richards and Mauricio, they have millions and millions of maybe more money than the Dubrows at this point with all the agencies, and well, as long as they stay together. But you know, there's like we have big money, you know, so she doesn't, it's not like, oh, I mean, even when, who was it? Diana Jenkins came in and she had crazy money. It's like, they're not like, they don't attack you for having the money. They just expect you to have the money.
No, if
It's like
anything,
when you don't have the money is when you're in question.
that's really what it is. I imagine like if Heather had sold a property for $55 million in Beverly Hills, those women would just be like, "Oh, congrats on the sale!" Like they wouldn't even think anything of it. They would just be like, "Oh, that's dope." But any other city, they're like,
Yeah,
$55
because even
million.
Kathy Hilton was like, I'm bored. I'm
Yeah.
renovating this $50 million mansion.
Right. And they were just like, even Sutton was like, okay, this is like kind of crazy. Even Sutton said that, and Sutton's got money too. But yeah, in Beverly Hills, money is definitely more of a, an everyday thing. The
Yeah,
millions,
it's like-
millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, they're rubbing elbows with the right people. In Orange County, I feel like Orange County has a lot of money too. It's just in this cast, it's obviously an issue. So Bravo, listen, just move her over. We want her over. And
If
that's
she
it.
wants to. Move her over if she wants to. But if
She would totally want to.
I think she wants to. She hinted. I remember at BravoCon, on the OC panel, she said something like, "I like diamonds." You know what I mean, so I think she'd be open to it for sure.
I agree. Well, Ricky, if they don't know, I'm going to bring up your stuff. Will you let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on all social media at Ricky Cornish. I actually just posted. Oh, I just posted my clip with Heather Dubrow on my TikTok yesterday. Her just being an absolute mother, talking about her amazing kids and her family and all that fun stuff. So definitely follow me on everywhere. I mainly use Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Those are like my main links. So yeah, feel free to follow me on all that. You'll get some Housewives stuff. There's the Heather Dubrow clip right there. So just posting celebrity interviews, having a fun time working at Out Magazine. I can't complain. Life is good.
I can't, wow, you just really just go into it like that, huh?
Yeah,
Can't complain.
life is good. I'm grateful.
And then also on YouTube.
Yes, in YouTube. That's where I post all my full length interviews and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you're trying to get more of the inside scoop with any of the celebs that I'm chatting with, Bravo aside or not, that's where you'll find it.
Sweet. Well, Ricky, thank you again so much for joining me today. I appreciate you making the time to be here. And also, guys, we had almost 700 people in the room for the live, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people for the replay crew. So thank you to everyone who engaged. Thank you for the super chat, super stickers, and thank you to our amazing mods. We will be back next week for the Real Housewives of Orange County reunion. Bye, guys. Love you.